Hello everybody, welcome to Little Rusty Bucket. Subscribe to the channel and drop a like on the video. Trying to hit 30k subscribers over here, so that subscription would be much appreciated. So in today's video, I wanted to talk about a guy who was still available in free agency and who I am skeptical will cease to be available in free agency, and that is of course Ben Simmons. Ben has had I would say one of the weirdest careers in NBA history. I don't even think there's an ounce of hyperbole in that. I don't think there is a single player who you could say had a similar path to Ben Simmons. I can't even glean to think of something different than that. Or similar to that, rather. And think of a million things different to Ben Simmons' career because the man truly chose an unconventional way of just being a bust and your NBA career flaming out. Because the guy was the #1 overall pick. He was pretty much, I don't think unanimous, but pretty close to it, because that was, I believe, Brandon Ingram was the follow-up pick to him. And coming out of LSU, he was getting these LeBron comparisons, Magic Johnson comparisons, just this huge forward who is super athletic, could dribble the ball exceptionally well, and my God, could the guy pass the ball. But the NBA proved to be more complicated because obviously as he was coming into the league, the three-point revolution that has so dramatically shifted the landscape of the NBA came to be. And that put him at an awkward position, but not one that prevented him from finding success early on in his career. And that is something that I want to emphasize in this video because I'm mostly just going to be reflecting on his career in this one. He was good as fuck at one point in time. It's not like the dude was a fraud the whole time. It's not like he was secretly bad. There's so many people who have talked, still to this day, talk about Ben Simmons like there wasn't anything there, that people just bought into this complete horseshit. And I'm sorry, that is stupid. There is a reason that the man was an all-star. There's a reason he got paid the ludicrous amount of money that he ended up being paid, ludicrous in hindsight. It all made sense. However, where his troubles lied was the playoffs, because upon the initial breakout, they made the playoffs his rookie year. I think they flipped to a 50-win team after missing the playoffs the year before that. Also, just because they got a healthy Joel Embiid for a prolonged period of time. But Ben Simmons takes them to the playoffs, and then they're not very good. I believe, is that the year that they lose to the Celtics? I think they lose to the Celtics that year. The Terry Rozier Celtics, if I'm getting that year correct. I think I am. Then they get Jimmy Butler. And once again, in that playoff context, the guy looks very, very rough. And I would mostly chalk that up to the fact that he just didn't have an off-ball game that he could really do anything with. And, when you have Joel Embiid, who's going to be posting up on the block for a majority of his offense, you're going to just get in the way of that by being in the dunker spot. Being in that dunker spot does not result in good offense in 2025. You don't just have a big hovering around the rim waiting for shots to go up. If you have a post-up big especially, you want the other four players on the floor to be spacing it, but there can be an exception there, which is like a great ball handler. However, Jimmy Butler was the great ball handler on that team. He was the guy who was doing a majority of the dribble penetration. He was the guy who was doing a majority of the creation off of the dribble, just in terms of pull-up shots and stuff like that, and then also setting up his teammates. So Ben in the half court just kind of stood there a lot of the time, and it took the ball out of his hands, and he's not a particularly effective player when the ball is not in his hands. However, he also, as a guy who cannot shoot, especially had this trouble in the playoffs where teams end up not defending him, which takes away the impact of his passing ability. Something that I remember being discourse at the time was people who were like, man, why don't Ben and Embiid have more of a two-man game? Why don't they run screen action? Why don't they run pick and roll more often? If the ball handler just can't shoot, they're going to go under the screen every time. It's very simple to guard a pick and roll that Ben Simmons is the lead ball handler in. All of the things that I've just said are huge detriments to the level of impact he can have as a playoff guy. However, what happened in that Atlanta series was the effective end of Ben Simmons' career. We've obviously seen him play since then, but the moment that he passed up that shot on Trae Young right at the basket, that is when he illustrated that his career was going downhill. Not even considering the injury stuff that came into play after the fact. The thing with Ben, as much as I harped on the jump shot, he didn't need a jump shot to be good. He didn't need a jump shot to be an all-star. He didn't need to be a jump shot to be a very impactful player. His issue was he also was unwilling to score in the way that he was good at. Ben Simmons, as a 6'10" forward with long arms, super quick, exceptional handle, really strong, good vertical athlete as well. He had all the tools to be a freight train going to the basket. And yet, the guy is afraid to go up on even Trae fucking Young. And that is where Ben's offense seriously faltered. Because from there, it wasn't like we were sitting here like, okay, Ben, figure out the jump shot and then you'll be good. It was like, at a certain point, like, okay, he's never going to know how to shoot. So what is he going to be capable of without that? And he highlighted, should be able to be a great slasher. And though the jump shot in the half-court set would be problematic, if you end up being such a bulldozer going to the rim akin to like a Giannis type, even if it's half the amount of driving and power of Giannis, that still opens up so much playmaking because his inability and unwillingness to finish and drive and finish also results in him being a substantially less effective playmaker. So his best asset, his passing, was taken out of the equation. What really should have been his best asset, his driving ability, is really a non-factor. He never was nearly as aggressive with that driving as I would have liked him to be, but like for his Nets days and his Clippers, very few Clippers days, just no amount of aggressiveness to get to the basket ever. You're not going to be in the NBA as a connective piece on offense who can't space the floor, can't finish, refuses to be aggressive with his shot in any capacity. Like, what he has been in Brooklyn and what he was briefly for the Clippers was like a small ball center, kind of power forward, like kind of just whatever they needed him to be. Like, his technical position is listed at point guard, but I've seen him at basically every position on other teams. And from there, from his Philly days, he averaged 14 points in 2021. He peaked at 16.9 in his second year. And then it's just been 6.9, 6.1, 5, 6.2, and then 2.9. It's just not enough, man. Like, he still rebounds well. He still gets assists. Like, he still is able to put up 6 to 5 assists per game. Hell, he even averaged 7 assists per game for the Brooklyn Nets last season. If you're just that much of a zero in terms of putting the ball in the basket, it's going to be very hard to have a noteworthy impact in the NBA. And there's also now just all this baggage associated with him, his image. And I've always felt bad about the mental health thing because I just feel like people are way too flagrant with how they talk about players' mental health, because my motto in that entire turmoil was like, the 1% chance that he is as serious as could be about his mental health situation is worth putting at the forefront of what matters, even more so than the 99% chance that he's lying, which I don't believe there was a 99% chance he was lying. But even if we're framing it as such, given the consequences of a terrible, desperately spiraling mental situation, better to err on the side of caution. And I think Ben got a lot of flack that was unearned, but there's also a lot of flack that he's gotten that is very earned, and I recognize that too. So I don't know. His entire career just makes me sad. I wanted him to make the comeback just because of how shitty people were about him in that 2021-2022 season, but the fact of the matter is his mentality is just not there. It's not his jump shot. His jump shot did not kill his NBA career. His mentality did. And that's what sucks more than anything else, because it's very frustrating to see a player who has all the tools to be great and then they just don't use them. If Ben had a I'm going to drive the ball more often mentality, he'd be in the league. He'd have been signed a long time ago. He probably would have been fucking re-signed, but he barely touched the floor in the playoffs for the Clippers, and that was the only playoff basketball he played outside of that Hawks series. He had like 2 different stretches of minutes where he defended Jokic kind of well because they played him at some small ball center in spurts. You're watching Ben Simmons and you're trying to find the positive things to say, and it's like at that point, like, we're only going to be signing you based on your name, and I just don't think anyone's going to do that. So I don't know. I feel like Ben Simmons is probably better off just fucking dominating in some league overseas. But yeah, that is it. Thank you to Nick for editing this video, and goodbye.